He won the ball. His shot cannoned into the path of Dean Coney, and the former Fulham striker struck his first goal for the club. 6 minutes later came the best one of the game. Brian Broome's through ball gave Simon Reed the sort of chance he revels in, and he tucked it away. It was his 9th FA Cup goal this season, a warning for the watching West Ham manager Billy Bonds. For much of the second half, Farnborough somehow kept Torquay at bay. This was the closest they came, but the long leg of Jim Wigmore hooked the ball from under the Farnborough bar. Having soaked up the punishment, Farnborough then delivered the sucker punch. Coney and Reed set it up, and Doherty finished it. In the pandemonium that followed, the Farnborough manager Ted Pearce had to appeal for calm after a wall collapsed at the home end. 3 minutes later came number 4, a looping header by Brian Broome. Farnborough home and dry then? Well, not quite. Faced with humiliation, Torquay responded with a goal from Mickey Holmes after 75 minutes. 2 minutes later, Darren Rowbottom touched in Loram's cross. If the home fans were frantic then, they were at screaming pitch 3 minutes from time when Scott Colcombe made it 4-3. Could Torquay complete a sensational comeback? Not quite, though Dwayne Darby, the substitute, had the chance in injury time, but shot over when it was easier to score. The final relieving whistle came a minute later, and Farnborough fans in the 2,300 crowd celebrated Christmas early.
Well, a sad end for Torquay's FA Cup dreams. But don't forget, Exeter are playing Portsmouth at home on January the 4th. Now, a little...
The City face a far more attractive Christmas programme, home to Shrewsbury on Boxing Day, than that all-ticket... Torquay, that controversial signing of £1 million footballer Justin Fashanu, looks like paying dividends. The new striker certainly played his part in Friday's win over Preston. Scott Colcombe brought down for United's first-half penalty after that pass from Fashanu. In the end, it's Mark Loram making no mistake from the spot to lift Torquay out of the bottom 3.
There were major talking points at Craven Cottage, where Paul Hall gave Torquay an 11th-minute lead against managerless Fulham. Hall seeing his first shot well saved, but making the most of the rebound. The home side hit back within seconds, though. Some serious question marks about the quality of defending, but full credit to Sean Farrell for making the most of the opportunity. Fulham took the lead just before half-time. Pike's corner creating all kinds of problems in the Torquay area. In the end, it's Simon Morgan who drives an unstoppable volley into the corner. No chance at all for Gareth Howells. The frustration continued for United after the break. They hit the bar twice, first from a delightful Justin Fashanu chip, and then with Fulham pinned back into their own half, emerging midfielder Neil Sang saw his long-range effort beat Stannard and crash against the woodwork. Despair for limping manager Wes Saunders turned to anger when Fashanu was sent off. He'd already been harshly booked in the first half and received his marching orders for that challenge on Jeff Eckhart. Fashanu couldn't believe the referee's decision, and the replay evidence seems to suggest that Torquay may well be successful with their proposed appeal against the dismissal.
Well, let's spare a thought.
Going to the match full of confidence after a fine display at Hartlepool on Saturday. They took an early lead from the penalty spot after Scott Colcombe had been brought down in the area, Mark Loram converting. Hartlepool were back on terms in the 16th minute, a rare mistake in the United defence, and in the end it's David Johnson with a short-range volley. There's no doubt that Justin Fashanu has added much-needed inspiration to the goals side, and Hartlepool always found him a handful. The home side had their moments, but as the game wore on, Torquay looked more likely to score and could well have wrapped up all 3 points late in the game with this effort by Paul Hall. But Martin Hodge pulled off a great save. Final score, Hartlepool 1, Torquay 1.
There was a bumper New Year's crowd of nearly 6,000 at Playmore for the latest third division Devon derby. Not quite as much excitement as the game at Home Park, but both sides were unlucky not to score in a fairly evenly balanced first half. Goalkeepers Kevin Miller and Gareth Howells proving that they'd taken no part in the previous night's celebrations. Much of the interest surrounded Dean Edwards, back with Exeter after 2 spells with Torquay. He could have scored with that superb shot just before half-time. After the break, it was Torquay who took complete control. Quarter of an hour gone in the second half. Sang with the corner kick. Could go anywhere. Fashanu! 1-0 to Torquay United. And Justin Fashanu has got off the mark for United. In fact, Fashanu could have gone on to score a second goal moments later when he shrugged off a challenge to latch onto Paul Hall's through ball. The shot went wide, but it couldn't spoil a memorable day for United's high-profile striker.
Well, in football, you get one or two chances, and the cross came over, and it's one of those balls which you couldn't really clear because it died on the defender, and he tried to control it, hit his leg, and it's an opportunist goal, really. You strike it, you hit it as hard as you can at the goal, and it flew in the back, and that's what I suppose a goal scorer is all about. That's what Lineker's made £1 million doing, and that's what it's all about. It wasn't a great goal, but it was a great finish.
Well done to Justin, well done to the fans for their good behaviour. That's it from me. We'll be back on the sports desk tomorrow with a full FA Cup preview. Jerry.
Torquay earned 3 much-needed points at Plainmoor. It was a disappointing day for Exeter, whose poor away form continued. The winning goal in front of 5,500 spectators came from Justin Fashanu. Phil Lloyd, the Torquay defender, was booked yesterday after apparently elbowing Exeter's Dean Edwards, and United are likely to take disciplinary action against him. Torquay United striker Darren Rowbottom, who recently moved from Exeter City, has now joined 3rd Division Birmingham City. The move has been agreed with his old boss, former Exeter City manager Terry Cooper, who's now in charge at Birmingham.
Fashanu continues to make the headlines. Fashanu skippered Torquay in Saturday's league clash with West Bromwich Albion and proved yet again that he's the buy of the season. The former £1 million footballer had the Albion defence in all kinds of trouble in the first half. Yet he missed the easiest chance of the game on the half hour after a brilliant move from the United side. Nicely played to Colcombe. This is good pressure from Torquay and a good ball too. Oh, how did Fashanu miss that? Into the second half, and it was all Albion. Craig Shakespeare brought a fine save from Gareth Howells midway through the half. But West Brom's best chance fell to Darren Bradley late in the game. Great effort from point-blank range, and yet another fine save from the goal's keeper. But once again, Justin Fashanu had the last word. So into the last minute, the corner to be taken by Wayne Dobbins. Fashanu! Oh, it's there! Justin Fashanu with a rocket of a header in the closing minute. What a goal by the striker, and what a signing this is turning out to be. Just look at that, the way Fashanu buried it. The goalkeeper couldn't stop it. Closing seconds here, it's now Torquay 1, West Bromwich Albion 0. Yes, it's a glamorous life being a soccer star, but it seems Justin Fashanu needs someone to share it with. His advert in this week's Gay Times for a live-in assistant has certainly raised a few eyebrows. But Torquay aren't commenting other than to say simply that a player's private life is his own affair. Will be feeling pretty...
1991 produced many twists and turns. It started with Dave Smith at the helm and promotion a near certainty. Things went wrong. Smith left, and it was John Impey who guided United into the 4th Division playoff final at Wembley. A goal from influential defender Wes Saunders helped put the lights out for Blackpool, but it was goalkeeper Gareth Howells who was the real hero when a dramatic penalty shootout reached sudden death.
And he scores. Well, not often you see a goalkeeper score at Wembley. And cool as you like, Gareth Howells scores. But again, the pressure is on. And he's missed it. And Torquay United are back in Division 3. 19 years they've waited for this moment. For Dave Bamber, striking the ball wide of the target. That's good night, Blackpool. Hello, 3rd Division for Torquay United. They win 5-4 on penalties.
But for Impey, the glory was short-lived. 8 weeks into the new season, he was sacked. Chairman Mike Bateson deciding that quick action was needed if United were to avoid a quick return to the 4th, where Saunders and John Uzell took over and surprised everyone in December by signing up controversial striker Justin Fashanu. As a homosexual, he had almost given up hope of finding a new club.
God didn't say it'd be easy, life, and the one thing that I wanted to do was be honest and get out of the closet, just be myself. And I don't have a problem with my sexuality, and I don't have a problem with my ability to play football.
It was a year that also saw the death of former Torquay manager Cyril Knowles. Knowles had moved on to Hartlepool but died after a long-term brain illness. There was also considerable turmoil at St James's Park, where Exeter City chairman Ivor Doble was forced to step down.
Up at Darlington. Well, United made a marvellous start with Wayne Dobbins scoring his first goal for the club after great work here by Chris Myers. But Darlington hit straight back with this Andy Toman free kick, bent round the Torquay wall, and that really signalled a complete breakdown in the United defence. In the next half hour, the game was effectively lost as Darlington took a 3-1 lead, with goals first by Mardenborough there and a second for Toman just before the break. Well, Torquay came back strongly in the second half, with substitute Sean Joyce glancing at Paul Holmes' cross in the 57th minute, but 3-2 it stayed.
Football Association for their decision today not to impose any further punishment on Brentford's Gary Blissett for the incident last month that left John Uzell in hospital. Bateson called it absolutely unbelievable and said he was astounded. The very body that brought the charge, he said, has promptly dismissed it. Well, this is the incident in question. Uzell was left with facial injuries that threaten his career. Blissett was sent off and has already served a 3-match ban. This afternoon, he gave his version of events at a disciplinary hearing in London, at the end of which no new punishment was imposed. John Uzell won't comment, but Mike Bateson said the player is more determined than ever to pursue the matter through the police. They expect to interview Blissett next week.
But no luck for Torquay United at home to Bury. Even Justin Fashanu had a rare off day, fluffing the few chances that came his way. Bury, on the other hand, were clinically efficient up front and took the lead just before the break when Ian Stevens blasted a superb volley past Gareth Howells. United continued to press forward in the second half, and Matthew Elliott was desperately unlucky not to score here. Bury keeper Gary Kelly blocking a point-blank volley. But the visitors had the run of the play, increasing their lead in the 76th minute following a marvellous solo run by winger Roger Stanislav. Once again, Torquay's defence just stood and watched. Final score, Torquay 0, Bury 2.
And Fashanu!
For Justin Fashanu, Torquay is just about the biggest contrast possible to a career that's taken in the highs and lows of First Division life with Norwich and Nottingham Forest. It's a setting somewhat out of keeping for a man who unashamedly hopes to return to the big time. For the moment, though, Fashanu is happy enough just to be playing regular league football.
Wherever I go, I feel glamorous. I don't, whether I'm Manchester United, that's great. If I'm at Torquay, that's great, because I have my own standards. I make sure my boots are cleaned, I make sure my training kit is nice and cleaned every day, and I enjoy making sure that wherever I am, that is the height of my profession. I'm enjoying myself more now than I have done for many, many years in football. I've got a chairman in Mike Bateson that wants to understand me, that doesn't feel intimidated by me, that doesn't feel anything but wants to try and find out about Justin Fashanu and understands that I'm not the run-of-the-mill footballer. I've got a coach in Wes Saunders who, again, is not intimidated and who doesn't try to intimidate me and understands that if he treats me properly, then I'll treat him properly and with total respect. And we've got a great thing going here. The players, we've got players here, the 99.9% of the players are people who are nice people.
This Norwich goal 12 years ago thrust Fashanu into the superstar bracket. It led to his big move to Nottingham Forest, and as the country's youngest £1 million player, much was expected. For a variety of reasons, though, he just couldn't deliver what Brian Clough had been expecting.
It was unfortunate the manager wasn't the type of manager that I really could deal with. I was left to be given a free rein, and then when it went out of hand, I was really pulled in tightly. And of course, the horse bucks, and I definitely reacted against that. Also, suddenly a lot of money coming in and fame and everything, and I don't think that I had any real discipline, and so I think it went down pretty quickly. But the good thing is you learn more through so-called bleak times and lack of success than you do through success. I would not change anything that has happened in my life.
After drifting to Notts County and Brighton and then into Canadian football, Fashanu's career almost came to an abrupt halt due to a knee injury. There's no sign of the problem now. In fact, he reckons he's stronger than ever.
When I had the injury, I had to start getting to know my body. I had to start thinking about nutrition and about flexibility and about just taking care of this body that God's given me. And at 29, I feel that it's probably the best thing that happened because I look after myself so much better now.
But when it came to finishing a career, that knee injury was nothing compared to these revelations about his sexuality 15 months ago. In the homophobic world of football, managers and club chairmen backed off when they saw Fashanu talking about his private life on network television.
Why did you decide to go public in that way?
Because I'd had a knee injury 4 years ago, and I'd spent a lot of time, a lot of money and effort trying to get back into soccer because I felt that the injury was curable. I came back a couple of times too early, and probably the reason I didn't make it was because there's been so many innuendos and rumours and this, that and the other going on about my sexuality and about me over the years that I thought that the situation was, let's be honest, there's so much hypocrisy, there's so many people who are not what they say they are. It's not a big deal in as much as people are either employing me for what I can do on the soccer field or not, you know.
Fashanu has since said that he could end up getting married. So has he been misunderstood in the past?
All I said, and what I try to get across was that sexuality is something like the sea, can come and go. It's not something which you can, I think, guarantee for the rest of your life you're going to be this, this and this. If people do, then that's fine with them. But for me, I just want to see what goes on and not commit myself either way.
Sadly, Fashanu's coming out has split a once close-knit family. Brother John, who plays for Wimbledon, refuses to make contact.
John and myself grew up together and in a white environment. We will meet up, it's going to happen, and he'll have to deal with that.
Over the last year or so, Fashanu has attempted comebacks with clubs like Manchester City and Newcastle. Both were doomed to failure. Too high profile, perhaps, and expecting too much too soon from a man who needed a little time to readjust.
Well, yeah, I agree with that, but I think that they may rue the day that they haven't, in as much as there's strikers at the moment in very short demand in my style. And the thing is that Mike Bason's got a potentially higher division player for a lot less money. And I've had 4 or 5 games so far. And I'm only going to get better because I'm fit, I'm strong, and I'm experienced.
Thankfully, Torquay have provided an ideal opportunity for Fashanu to prove he's still got the striker's instinct. When he scored his first league goal for 6 years against Exeter City on New Year's Day, you could almost see the relief etched on his face. A more relaxed Fashanu followed it up with a bullet header against West Bromwich Albion.
Oh, it's there! Justin Fashanu with a rocket of a header in the closing minutes. What a goal by the striker, and what a signing this is turning out to be.
So is his spell at Torquay a springboard back to the First Division?
What happens down the road will happen down the road. There's no guarantee that if another club comes in, apparently the management has said there's been people inquiring about me. There's no guarantee that I would leave because I'm not in a situation where I just want to go for success. I want quality of life now. I've been spoiled. I've been in America and Canada for a long time, and I want to have quality of life, which means enjoying the people I work with, enjoying the surroundings and everything. So we would have to see. But at the moment, I'm at Torquay and I'm thoroughly enjoying myself.
If anybody, any club chairman out there are listening, we will consider offers for Justin. That was part of the deal that we had with him. Yes, indeed, he is using us as a stepping stone, as we're using him to get people through the turnstiles and get results, so we hope it's mutually beneficial.
Justin Fashanu is somebody who loves life. Justin Fashanu is somebody who loves people and cares, who likes the good things in life, who's not frightened to express his emotions, not frightened to express the fact that if you've got it and you want to show it, do so in a tasteful way, if that's what turns you on. Justin Fashanu is not jealous, not vindictive. If you cross him, chances are that he'll remember it and won't allow you to do it again, but certainly won't allow bitterness and all those type of negativities to come into your life, and I enjoy life.
A very relaxed Justin Fashanu talking there to Mark Tyler.
In comparison, Torquay's home game with Bradford was positively full of incident, starting with a twice-taken penalty. Kevin Hodges made the break into the Bradford box in the 3rd minute, and Robbie James was adjudged to have handled in the area. So a penalty kick for Justin Fashanu. His first attempt hitting the post, and the referee ordering the kick to be retaken because Bradford player-manager Frank Stapleton had encroached into the area. This time, the Torquay captain made no mistake. United should have made it 2-0 just before the break with this Chris Myers header, but his effort was cleared off the line by Mark Leonard. Bradford hit back early in the second half when Wes Reed made the break down the flank, hitting the perfect cross for former Argyle striker Sean McCarthy to hit home. Torquay continued to press for the winner right up to the whistle, and Kevin Hodges was desperately unlucky with that 20-yarder, but 1-1 it stayed.
Club.
All I want is the best for Torquay United. Me and John have given it our best shot, you know, under the circumstances. But the chairman's pointed out that mine and John's positions don't change as player coach, assistant player coach. So it doesn't affect me in the slightest because I can get back to playing now and get my mind put on that. But I think Ivan Golak will come down and give us a bit of experience, which we need.
Till the end of the season, Yugoslav Ivan Golak has signed a 3-month contract and can't wait to take over the reins for Saturday's home clash with Darlington.
A week after his appointment, the metaphorical dust sheet was whipped off at last. Ivan Golats, and that's the correct pronunciation, was revealed as a man of quiet charm and steely determination.
Ambitions are to you know, keep Turkey in the 3rd division and go with the Turkey in the 2nd. As simple as that.
Do you really believe that's realistic at the moment?
Oh, yeah. Well, if I don't believe, I won't be coming.
He wants Torquay to save themselves with pure classical football. Today was only his 2nd session with them, but he's fast assessing the raw material.
There is ability, you know, and potential, so I need to see the team, well, this morning, and I'm positive, you know, we're going to do well. We're going to do well.
Have you identified any weaknesses that you want to iron out straight away?
Well, we're going to change tactically, you know. Too many people, just too many players right there, just on the one side of the pitch. We need a proper balance on the pitch, so that's how we're going to work.
Time, though, and money are short and his room for manoeuvre limited. At least Mark Loram is still available. His move to Stockport has hit a snag. The fans could help too. Golats is calling for a big turnout. But on the eve of the 6-pointer with Darlington, the heat is on for the 41-year-old Yugoslav.
Ivan Golats.
Plainmore, they have a new manager, Ivan Golats, in charge for the first time. And whether it was his influence or whether some other inspiration, Torquay were to get 3 goals for the first time in the league since September. Number 1 after 12 minutes. Justin Fashanu claiming the credit, and his 4th goal since joining. But quite honestly, if this isn't an own goal, I don't know what is. Number 2 came just before half-time and was bizarre in the extreme. A wild back pass, the goalkeeper trying to save the corner and gifting it to Mark Loram. Justin Fashanu adding the finish, this time unaided. So if luck helped in attack, it was also on their side in defence, though when Wes Saunders gave away a penalty after the break, manager Golats put his faith in the special training he'd given Gareth Howells the day before. It paid off, Howells guessing right. This match was meant to be Mark Loram's swan song, and he made it memorable with the 3rd goal right at the end. Today, though, news that his move to Stockport is almost certainly off. So good news all round, including off the field. On Saturday, Torquay became the first club for years to police a game entirely themselves. Orange-jacketed stewards replacing the local constabulary. The economy measure proved a success and will be repeated in the future.
Meanwhile, Exeter City boss Alan Ball was making a victorious return to his hometown. Ball's side chalked the score.
Faraday was in the danger as Shakespeare rose to connect with the cross. But it fell to teenage substitute Alan Hunter to score the game's solitary goal after a neat interchange with Gary Robson. Even then, the game wasn't safe, as first Justin Fashanu, then Mark Loram forced on-loan keeper Andy Dibble into an acrobatic double save. Sadly, the match ended in a series of niggling fouls. Fashanu, Wes Saunders and Darren Bradley were all sent off, leaving a sour aftertaste to some meagre entertainment.
Sad day for Torquay. A good win for Exeter. Sadly, Torquay couldn't emulate them up at Bury. 0-0 the score there, but they'll be kicking themselves for missing chances like this one. Justin Fashanu with the goal at his mercy, straight at the keeper, though. And near the end, they almost stole it with a fine shot from winger Paul Hall, but luck was with the home side. So a valuable point for Torquay, but it could and should have been all three. Ivan Golak is threatening changes after Saturday's dismal home performance. It was far and away the worst display under the Yugoslavs' charge, with United looking woeful up front. Torquay's only real chance came midway through the first half when Justin Fashanu found himself well placed from the Chris Myers throw-in, but the striker's shot was too weak to trouble Nigel Atkins. But that apart, the Torquay players had clearly left their shooting boots in the locker room, and there was an awful inevitability about Wigan's winner. It came just 11 minutes from time, with Tankard going past Myers down the left and hitting the perfect cross for the unmarked Phil Daly. Final score, Torquay 0, Wigan 1.
Meanwhile, defeat for Torquay at Bournemouth. It all started to go wrong in the 13th minute. Jimmy Quinn with the header. 12 minutes later, and they were further behind. This time, a superb virtuoso performance from Efan Ikoku. Torquay did manage to pull one back through Justin Fashanu in the second half, but it was too little, too late. 2-1 the final score.
His fellow directors to put up or shut up. At the moment, he's paying £8,000 a week of his own money for club wages.
If by this time next week the takeover hasn't happened, then I should be a very lonely, baffled and probably downright poorer chairman. I'm not going to let it go. I'll stay in as chairman regardless of if they in fact don't come up with a suitable offer. I shall stay on, and I suppose if more money's got to be put in, it's got to be put in.
So there's not going to be an Aldershot situation here?
Not as long as I'm in control now.
Mike Bateson, well, Torquay's cash crisis is so severe, the club have announced this week they may go part-time. In fact, they've already started the policy by calling one former goal-scoring idol out of retirement.
You could hear the offbeats pound as they raced across the ground, and the clatter of the wheels as they spun round and round. And he galloped into Market Street, his badge upon his chest.
His name is Airy, and he drives the fastest milk cart in the West. But then what else would you expect from someone who not so long ago was banging in the goals at Playmore? 2 years ago, Carl Airy equalled an all-time club record when he scored in 7 consecutive league games. But a long-term injury set him down a very different path. This is how Carl spent his last 8 months as a Unigate milkman. But he's lost so much weight on his early morning rounds, he's decided to prove the specialists wrong. 2 stone lighter, the pint-sized striker, made an impressive comeback for United reserves in midweek.
I feel much fitter. It's probably the job what's got me a lot fitter than I was really playing football.
What's your typical routine then?
Well, the alarm goes off at 2:45 in the morning. And into the depot, finish for 8:30, 9 o'clock, and home back to bed for a couple of hours.
Now, there has been talk, of course, of Torquay perhaps going part-time next year. Do you feel that that's the way things are going as far as the 3rd and 4th division sides are concerned?
Yeah, there's not much money about now, so I think a lot more clubs in the 3rd and 4th division, especially when the Super League comes in, that they'll have to think about part-time football.
So it could be milkman in the morning and footballer in the afternoon?
Hope so.
Tough old job.
It is, both.
And thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
And he drove the fastest milk cart in the West.
Man with a lot of bottle.
The supporters have blamed the chairman for the problems, and he's countered by saying that he's currently paying the players' wages out of his own pocket. But now it appears that Mr. Bateson has had enough, and he's ready to accept a bid from 3 other directors to take control.
I called a board meeting and advised the directors that I'd had enough of putting a hand in my pocket, and I felt that they or somebody else should have a go. And because of my autocratic style of management, they're not too keen to put large lumps of money in while I'm still in charge, so I invited them to make a bid if they felt they could do the job better than me. And that is what they've gone away to put together.
But if he does decide to go, Mike Bateson believes the supporters will be able to look back on 2 years which have been colourful, if nothing else.
Hopefully they'll just remember it as a couple of years of where things happened. Some good things, some bad things, but I've tried to make it interesting for everybody. Yeah, maybe they'll remember you as Mr. Interesting Bateson.
Well, tomorrow, Torquay will give Robbie Herrera his debut, but German star Andreas Scholl will miss the match at Leyton Orient as his registration hasn't gone through as yet. Plymouth Argyle manager Peter Shilton chooses from a squad of 14 players for tomorrow's home game with Tranmere.
The result was no surprise. They did hold out until the second half, but then Ricky Otto slipped through for the opener. Peter Shilton was at the match to look at Orient's Kevin Nugent. He could well be joining Argyle before Thursday's deadline, and he certainly gave Shilton something to look at. His goal after 69 minutes putting the game beyond Torquay. Torquay in real trouble now at the foot of the table, 8 points adrift. Goals to start. Years old, the Gulls manager Ivan Golats is set to make a dramatic comeback. It's a desperate last gamble to try to save the club from relegation. His announcement follows last night's home defeat at the hands of Birmingham. It must be said that Torquay didn't deserve to lose. In fact, when the excellent Chris Myers put them ahead on the half hour, all 3 points looked theirs for the taking. But nothing's gone right for them this season, and after 63 minutes, what little luck they've got left ran out. To rub salt into the wound, it was Darren Rowbottom, still in dispute with his old club, who got the goal. Even then, a valuable point looked likely, but with 8 minutes left, another mistake, and Trevor Matthewson grabbed the winner. So the writing's starkly on the wall now, merely underlined by the manager's desperate comeback move.
But the thing is, you know, we got squad, what we got actually. We can buy any players, we can't bring any players, so basically we got about 12 players. And with Matt Elliott just being ill, we're very short. So we do need experience, we do need equality, so I could be around.
And that is realistic, is it? You aren't just trying to have people on?
No, it is a big possibility, yes. And from next Wednesday week, which is Shrewsbury Way, I could be on the bench for the start.
Oh, what a shock that would be. And still at Plainmoor, Birmingham boss Terry Cooper has expressed a strong interest in...
Themselves a glimmer of hope on Saturday. Their win over top-of-the-table Stoke has brought them a little nearer to the rest of the pack at the bottom of the 3rd Division. There was a very familiar ring about the Stoke City side. It was, in fact, the Birmingham lineup inadvertently held over from that midweek defeat at Plainmoor. And Saturday's game seemed to be following the same pattern, with United taking an early lead against more illustrious opponents. Oh, what a terrible ball! And an excellent effort! It's in! Extraordinary goal by Mark Doby! A dreadful mistake by the Stoke defence. But Doby did so well there to put it past the keeper, Kevin Pressman. But this time, Torquay were determined not to let things slip. With player coach Wes Saunders in splendid form at the back, they kept Stoke at bay for the remainder of the game to chalk up a memorable victory. United still looked doomed, but after this result, anything could happen. Torquay 1, Stoke 0.
Meanwhile, at Gay Meadow, the expected comeback of Torquay manager Ivan Golats didn't materialise. The 41-year-old stayed in the stand and soon must have wished he hadn't. After 29 minutes of this relegation dogfight, Shrewsbury drew first blood. Gary McEwen moving in behind the goalmouth scramble. With Torquay 10 points away from the safety zone, they had to get back on terms quickly, but instead, just before the break, they found themselves 2 down. Neil Lyne's shot may have been weak, but a cruel bounce left Gareth Howells floundering. Torquay looked dead and buried, but in the second half, the corpse first twitched, then